Welcome to the affiliate interview series by StatsDrone. Today we're chatting with Ollie Baise from olliebasedigital.com. Today we're going to talk about HARO links and everything that has to do with it. So let's get to it. So welcome to the affiliate interview series. I got a special guest with me, a guy I've known for a long time who's helped me out in the past with some links. And his name is Oliver Baise, or Ollie. So maybe I'll just hand it over to you, Ollie, and explain what you do. And today we're going to be talking about HARO, and let's get into it.
Hey, yeah. So as John said, my name's Ollie. I've been a link builder more on the sort of digital PR side of things for the last 4 years. HARO is one of the techniques that I've been using since 2018. It's becoming really well known and has been sort of shot up in popularity in the last 18 months to 2 years. But it's been around for like longer than I've been in SEO. So people seem to think it's a new thing, but it's not. But yeah, I've been doing it for the last 5 years. So yeah, here to talk about that.
And just a quick footnote, HARO stands for Help a Reporter Out. So everyone calls it HARO and all capitalized. And it was created by Peter Shankman. So Peter is, I guess you could say he's like an old school journalist. I mean, he got started back in the AOL days, and he just kind of found this need of trying to connect, the media with people that had stories or experts to share. So he created this system, and just to kind of explain how it works is, you'll get all these emails that come into your inbox, and you can basically pick which categories you want that you're the expert in. And you'll get someone that could be for anything, like New York Times saying, hey, I need help with something about SEO, digital marketing, or responsible gaming, or whatever topic that is. So your job is to basically, I guess you can get 3 of these groups of emails per day?
Yeah, so you get 3 of these emails a day, but each email contains between 75 and like 200 requests. So depending on the industry that you're in, you can get maybe between 0 and like 5 relevant requests a day. But a lot of the requests are requests like the request will be, I am looking for a business owner to talk about how to do your own accounting, for example. Anyone who owns a business can answer this response. And I call these generalist response arrows. And when you see a request like this, they're often looking to build, those big roundup posts. So it's like 50 affiliate marketing experts talk about their favorite affiliate marketing tools. So they're looking for 50 sources or 100 sources or whatever. So long as you can give like a 6, 7 out of 10 answer and you're in there quickly, you're going to get included. And big websites run these things. So like Forbes often run them. Big industry specific like software sites run them and stuff like that. So because they are because they're trying to create these big roundup posts, you need to answer the question as if you're a contributor of this big roundup post. So if you read one of these big roundup posts, every single respondent has the same format. They've got a little headline, and then they've got a 3-sentence explain of the thing, where you explain the thing, you explain why the thing is good, and then you give an example of the thing in action, right? If you can answer your request like that, headline, explain the thing, give a benefit of the thing, and give an example or like a practical implication of the thing, you're going to get included. The journalist, they're busy. They've, this is one of 3 or 4 articles they're writing in a day. They need to be able to copy and paste your answer, your response into their article. If they can't copy and paste the response into the article, they're going to just go with another response, because even though they want 50 sources, they're probably going to get 500 responses, right? So you need to be the top 10%, and most importantly, you need to make it as easy as possible for them to copy and paste it into the article. Now, the big mistake that people make with these generalist type questions is that they will try, so say, I don't know, I'm looking for a business owner to talk about hiring, right? What they want is they want one business owner to make one point about hiring and to and to explain it really thoroughly. Now, a mistake that a lot of people make is they will try and say 3 points about hiring and sort of wing each of them. And I think the thinking behind here is, oh, well, if the first idea is a bit lame, then at least I've got the second one. But that's not how you do it. You say you choose a specific angle or specific point, and you try and do that as best as possible, rather than try and do 3 or 4 badly. So that's how you answer the generalist ones. The second type of HARO that you get, I call them specialist responses, right? And the way that you can tell these from the generalist ones, they won't be labeled as like specialist or generalist. They're labeled according to niche, but to be honest, the journalists don't label them very well. So you just need to look through the whole email and just pick the ones that are relevant to you. You get software that tries and automates this, but I don't think any of them make a very good job of it personally. But yeah. So anyway, back to the specialist ones. These are the ones where the journalist will ask you usually between 3 and 6 questions. Sometimes it's like 10 questions, but it's usually between 3 and 6 questions. And rather than saying, I'm looking for a business owner, they're like, I am looking for a dentist to talk about cavities and teeth. So obviously you need to be a relevant person, but whereas the conversion rate, if you're good, the conversion rate for these generalist responses will be 20%. With these specialist responses, if you're good, the conversion rate will be above 50%. So when you see something like this that's relevant to you, I think of it as like in soccer when you're teed up for a tap-in. Like you got to answer it. Like it's a link that's just fallen into your lap and you just got to grab it, right? So the journalists, they'll ask you 3 to 6 questions. They have chosen these. They have put time into choosing these questions. They have chosen the questions for a reason. You need to, the important thing is answer the question. Don't give, it's not like the generalist response where you've got to sort of think of an angle and then say that angle. They just want you to answer the question. The journalist probably knows the answer to the question, but they just want like a legitimate source, right? So write each question out, bold and italicize it so the journalist can see you are answering the question, and then answer the question, but answer all the questions. A lot of people, I think just because they're lazy, they're like, they'll answer the first question the journalist asks only. But then the journalist has to go through like 10 more emails to try and get all these answers. But if you answer all the questions, even if you're not like necessarily the best position to answer all the questions, just answer all the questions. Because if a journalist asks 5 questions and you give 5 separate answers, you have 5 chances for inclusion. If a journalist asks 5 separate questions and you give 1 answer, you have a 1 out of 5 chance for inclusion. The journalist, again, has written out all these questions for a reason. They want to cover all these points in their article. So the more of those points that you answer, again, each one doubles your chance of inclusion. So yeah, again, 2 types of requests: generalist, specialist. Generalist, 1 point, make it well. Specialist, answer every single question. And if you need to make 10 points to answer every question, then you make 10 points. Some HAROs I've spent like an hour and a half just researching and finding the right answer. But hey, I've got like a super relevant DR91 backlink out of it, and I was the only guy linked to in that article. It's like you can't get a better link than that. So it's worth the time doing.
Yeah. I guess like the thing that, I know I personally failed at in trying to do HARO myself, probably about 1 or 2 years ago, is people need to think about getting in the mindset of going, put yourself in the journalist's position. And it's a lot of what you just said previously about having like setting them up. It's the tap-in. It's I think a lot of people when they start HARO, they're like, oh, this is great. I'm going to build links and I get some links on Forbes and all that stuff. And they get started. I think they try it for a week and then they give up. So what are other tips that you can go, like, I'm sure there's lots of things that you can do. Like maybe as one example, like how do you demonstrate that you are that expert? Like aside from answering the question, like, can you do a bit more than just saying, hey, I'm so-and-so, answer the question? Like, what can you do to look more professional and really resonate with that journalist?
Well, in an ideal world, and especially if you're answering these specialist requests, it should be self-explanatory that you're an expert. So again, I go back to the dentist example. Like they're like, I'm looking for a dentist. And the first line in your email is, I'm Dr. Ollie Baise, a dental practitioner at this dental practice. And then you link to your dental practice. I mean, you can't really refute that, can you? But I understand, like with the more generalist ones, yeah, So if it's not immediately obvious, just by virtue of who you are, then the first line after you introduce yourself is a sentence that contextualizes why you're an expert. So I remember I did one. It was like, I'm looking for someone to talk about how to foster an entrepreneurial spirit in children. Right. So my first 2 lines of that response were, "Hi, name. My name is Ollie, and I run a digital PR agency." And then I gave the name of it. And I'm also a parent of a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old. Right. So that you're an entrepreneur and you're a parent. Actually, this is one of the examples I give in my course. And if it's unclear, you just need to, again, ask yourself, like, who is an expert in this? And it might seem that a child psychologist or a developmental psychologist might be an expert in it. But really, if I wanted an answer to that question, I would want an entrepreneur and a parent, right? So yeah, you just need to, the first line in these generalist ones should be contextualizing the why you're an expert. So yeah, it's hello, name, 1 sentence introduce yourself, 1 sentence, 2 sentences max. Sort of, if it's not obvious already, saying you're an expert. The thing is, if you're obviously an expert and then you say you're an expert, that kind of detracts from the obviousness of you being an expert, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like a true expert doesn't need to say they're an expert, but if it's ambiguous whether you're an expert or not, just give 1 sentence contextualizing why an expert. And then again, the next line should be the headline of your point or their exact question, and then you go into the answers. Don't waste time chatting. Don't say anything that can't be copied and pasted into the article or doesn't realistically have a chance of being copied and pasted in the article. If you're not sure, that's a really, really good test. So yeah, but like especially with these generalist type answers, a line contextualizing why you're the guy for the quote is not a bad idea. But yeah, again, if you can just infer it, that's always better. I think when it comes to any type of writing, if you can infer stuff rather than explicitly say stuff, it's better. And this is no different.
So a quick question. It's like, let's assume you land a really big article. Let's say it's like Forbes or GoDaddy, New York Times. Do you use that as one more, what's the word, kind of social proof to say, hey, I am that expert. I was featured here, here, and here. Like, did you use that in some of your replies?
I know people talk about doing this. I've never done it. I think if you can infer it, it's still better than that. Like, but I get that, like, inferring expertise is kind of like a skill in itself. And I can't, there's not enough time to explain how to do that. So it's like a proper skill. But yeah, I always try to go down the infer route. Like, it should be obvious by just the air of just the way that you write should just invoke confidence in the journalist, rather than saying, hey, I'm an expert and I've been quoted here, here, and here. It sounds almost insecure, but it's safe. It's safe. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I always try and infer it if possible. But yeah, to answer your question, it's not going to hurt.
Yeah. Speaking about something that's kind of similar, like in the whole PR scape, but it's like I've been listening to some podcasts talking about the playbooks in PR from Mark Benioff, who's the co-founder of Salesforce. And he did a lot of things that grabbed a lot of the media's attention. And I've heard that the thing that he liked to do as well was get contacts or direct relationships, build relationships with actual journalists. So do you actually set this up, like, once you, let's say you're having a conversation and you're doing an outreach and you got a snippet, do you kind of like connect with that person and get like their cell or follow up on LinkedIn and have them kind of like in your database? And do they go back to you as going, hey, like maybe if they've connected with you before, did they come back to you and say, hey, I'm looking for something else?
It doesn't happen very often. It's usually they don't get back to you at all, even if they include you in. They're not going to be like, hey, I quoted you. They're just publish the article and move on with their lives. HARO's own marketing like to say, and I've spoken to, it wasn't HARO, but it was like a competitor to HARO, and they tried to sell me on their version of HARO, which was exactly the same as HARO, as like, oh, it's a great place to build relationships with journalists. It's not really. It's like more of a, it's the journalists see it as a service, and you are providing a service to them. You can sort of, I guess it's not going to hurt to like follow up and try and build relationships, but there are better ways, I think, of doing it. Like I do a lot of like outbound, well, not a lot. I do some outbound PR as well, where I'm sort of making the move on the journalist, but I don't really see that and HARO as two. I see them as two separate things. Part of it is because when a journalist contacts you, through the contact they have with the journalist through HARO, it's all done through their platform. Like you're not actually exchanging details. And while you can be a bit more proactive and like add them on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever, it just seems a bit stalky to me. I'd rather try and approach them with another piece of value rather than going back to the HARO well. I think if you can answer HARO and then approach them with another piece of value later, the relationship you're going to get at the end of it is going to be so much better. It feels like HARO, you've already exchanged value. You've given them a quote, they've given you a link. If you then try and build a relationship on the back of that, it's not built on the firm's foundations. I think you should give more value before you try and add them to your little book of contacts.
And let's jump right into outreach. And I think this is where a lot of people probably, do things wrong. Like there's outreach to, kind of like contact some of these media sources where you want to build links. But how important are the skills in outreach, and how does that also relate to, replying to HARO, or, things like warming up your emails, or maybe using a business email over Gmail and things like that?
Well, I think I do things. I've done things the other way around to most people. That I was doing HARO for several years before I did any outreach. Like I didn't even really know what outreach was, and I'd already been doing HARO for a few years. I mean, the way that you write a HARO response and the way that you write an outreach email is basically the same. It's getting to the point very quickly. It's trying to give things in a way that they can copy and paste it into their article. And that's if you're like pitching a quote or a bit of data or something. If you're actually pitching a topic, then it's obviously a little bit different because it just is different. When it comes to things like email deliverability doesn't really matter with HARO. But yeah, it's very important with HARO that when I say like building confidence in the journalist, like the way that the email structure is, like use a business email, use like a nice signature and stuff like that. And yeah, I think the same applies to outreach. I remember when I started doing outreach, which was like 2 or 3 years ago, the whole trend was to keep your email signature like as simple as possible, because people were worried that an image in your email or a link in your email would hurt deliverability. And I think that this is because a lot of professional outreachers come from quite spammy backgrounds. So they're like obsessed with deliverability. And while I understand that deliverability is important, I think that if you're doing PR rather than, guest post outreach or whatever, looking the part, I'd rather look the part and hit 80 inboxes than not look the part and hit 90 inboxes. I think if your email is all scruffy and you look like some shady dude, you can hit 1,000 journalist inboxes and you're going to get nothing.
True.
Whereas if you look the part, if you look the part and you hit, I don't know, half as many inboxes, your conversion rate will still probably be better. I also think that when it comes to outreach, I'm happy to do things like a bit more slowly to protect my email, rather than like do things like slightly more amateurishly in order to protect my email. So yeah, I'm happy to, when I do outreach, I'm happy to put in the extra effort and maybe do things in twice the amount of time. I mean, like actually sending the email. So like rather than sending like 100 emails a day or sending 50 emails a day, do things slowly, more slowly, because it also often you need to like it's not like a one and done email thing. You need to actually take them through a bit of a almost like a sales process for your pitch. And if you're sending hundreds of emails each day and you're getting dozens and dozens of responses each day, you can't really do that properly. So it sort of depends on how much time I have. Like I will intentionally like throttle email campaigns if I'm getting in a lot of conversations. Because I need to have those conversations primarily. That's the main reason. But a nice side effect of that is it protects your domain, so you can do things properly. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still use like lookalike domains and stuff like that when I'm trying to scale up. But I would never send from a Gmail domain or have like some or send like something as a random person rather than a like a real, or even if I'll say it'll be a real person even if it's me actually doing the thing. Like it will look like a real person. I mean, I own a few sites and I know how many like pictures I get from people who their intention, you can see they're hiding who they are, and it's like I'm never going to say yes to this ever, even if the picture's amazing. Like why are you hiding who you are? Like it makes you feel suspicious.
Yeah, and I think it goes without saying, I think the world of content is kind of migrating over towards realness and having, the ability to back up, like, hey, there's a person behind it. This is how you can get a hold of that person.
Yeah, I would agree like that with that. Like the whole EAT thing. I think firstly it's bleeding into every single niche. It's not just health and finance anymore. It's like everything. Yeah. And B, I think people downplay the importance of links for EAT as well. I think there are certain links that you need to be an expert to get. So the obvious ones are like industry, like I don't know, like university alumni page for medical school or whatever, like specific industry links. But I also think like if you are a finance professional and you're quoted in like a proper highbrow financial publication, I'm not super into finance, so I can't really think of one off the top of my head, then that would help with your EAT as much as a nice looking author page or whatever. Because again, like it's a really honest way of showing your expertise at something. Like someone who doesn't know their shit about finance won't get that. And that's at the end of the day what Google's looking for, like a not easily replicable signs of expertise. And that is a great example of that.
Right. So also like looking at all the different industries, like what industries does HARO not work well? And then the second part I want to ask is how would affiliates, obviously when we're talking about affiliate marketing, we're talking about basically every industry. How would affiliates go about doing this? And I'm assuming you're going to recommend that, if you're an affiliate site, you would still want to look at finding ways of, using this HARO technique.
Okay, so the first question was what industries is it not good for? Industries where I would say like B2C industries is not the best for HARO. Okay. Like non-professional services. So if you're selling, the kind of thing that you would just go to like a standard shopping mall or high street shop and buy, like journalists aren't really looking for like an umbrella expert or I'll think of like a proper, like a, I don't know, a dog toy expert.
Yeah.
They're just not really looking for stuff like that. So you can still answer those generalist emails though. You can still be like, my name is Ollie, I run this website, and if they're asking a question about hiring, I run this website and I employ 10 people and I've hired 5 of them in the last 3 months. You can talk about the current trends in hiring to an extent anyway. So about affiliates, yeah, journalists, they are looking for the highest level of credibility within a particular niche. Sometimes in certain niches, like an affiliate can be, but in most niches they won't be. It's like, if, let's say again, you run like some sort of personal finance affiliate site and you give like a 10 out of 10 quote, but then you've got someone who's a CPA, is that what they're called? Like a certified financial expert, a
Yes.
certified financial professional, CFP, and they give like a 7 out of 10 quote. Most of the time the journalists will go for the second one, just because I think they could be in a lot of trouble if their sources are bullshit. So they want to protect themselves from that. Again, you can still answer these generalist ones, and I would still recommend to go for them, because you never know who else is competing for these things. Most of the people who use HAROs are marketers, not actual professional people. A lot of the time they'll be pretending to be professional people, but a lot of the time a journalist can tell that they're pretending, I think, because a lot of the time the pretending isn't very good. So even if you're not the most credible person, if you can give a good answer, not in all cases, but in some cases, that can sort of make up for the lack of actual expertise. But yeah, at the same time, the current niche that I'm working in for my affiliate site, I've had 15 relevant HAROs in the last 12 months, which is not enough. It's not enough to make it worth doing.
True.
And while I've gotten like quite a lot of these generalist ones, they're not necessarily the best links in the world, especially if you're on a website that isn't relevant to your niche and you're one of 100 links on that website. Even if it's a DR 80, 90 website, I don't think it's that great. If it's like semi-relevant, then it's good enough, I think. But if it's not like completely irrelevant, then I don't really value it that highly. So I sort of smashed a few of them out just to get things started, but I haven't really continued with it. So yeah, like super B2C, like consumer commodity niches aren't the best for HARO. But anything that's sort of touching B2B or professional services, there's usually like a lot of stuff out there. Like there's a lot of like general business questions, there's a lot of like tech questions that you can answer, a lot of finance questions. And then with sort of more B2C questions, it's either like feast or famine. Like there are some, if you're in like the home improvement niche, oh my god, there are like every day there's like 5 to 10, and you can just absolutely kill it with HARO. There's so many, like think about like Home and Garden magazine and Family Handyman, and like there's so many like publications around it. But if you're in like I don't know, like even if you're in like a cooking niche, it's not necessarily the best. Like there are a few magazines that do like a bit of cooking, but it's not like a big one. But there are some niches that are like even worse than that, and there's like literally nothing. I mean, you just like a lot of the publications are like glossy type magazines, and then like business type magazines. So if you're not in a topic that gets covered by that, then you won't get as many.
Yeah, I can pretty much attest that, transitioning from being an affiliate to being a B2B software company, the ability for us as a company to get links is a lot different. I mean, it's easier. The angles in which I can personally write about it feels almost infinite. So it's kind of like a breath of fresh air being in the B2B space. And I see it as the easiest opportunity for anyone that's in B2B.
Oh yeah, completely. But the thing is, what's kind of, I guess, annoying if you're not in that type of space is the niches that are good for HARO are also tend to be good for other types of link building. Just because there's a lot of content being published about it generally. So like the space that StatsDrone is in, like it's good for HARO, but it's also good for guest posting.
Yes.
It's also good for like skyscraper type outreach. When it comes to like the more B2C niches that aren't as good for like HARO and stuff like that, that's when you see more like creative PR type campaigns, which the reason why they have to go creative is because you don't get these types of opportunities. You need to sort of think outside the box a little bit.
Going, just about to summarize most of this chat, and also get a chance to ask, how people can find you. I want to talk a little bit about your HARO course. Where can people find it, and what's inside the course? How does it work?
Cool, yeah. So it's at Internet Marketing Gold, which is a SEO training company owned by two guys called, I think it's two guys, Kyle Roof and Andrew Stephen.
Sounds familiar, yes.
Kyle Roof in particular is quite like a well-known guy in SEO. I think the average affiliate guy will probably know who he is. And the bulk of the course is just me answering HARO requests that I've only just seen a second ago. So I literally got my housemate to like pick 4 at random and then just give them to me. And then I film it and I like speak out loud as I'm answering. And I think that that's the best way of teaching anyone anything, because not only do you see the techniques that you use, but you also see like the amount of effort that I'm putting in. Like you could spend a whole day answering a HARO if you wanted to, but the amount of I think I spend like I think the shortest is about 10 minutes and the longest is about half an hour. And the amount of effort that I'm putting in will get you a 20% conversion rate, let's say. I think about a 20% conversion rate, which I think after that, if you're putting in more effort, it's kind of diminished returns. So you're just watching me do HARO after HARO after HARO and sort of explaining what I'm doing. There's a little bit of theory, but it's mainly just that. So yeah, Internet Marketing Gold. I think you can buy the course individually, but I think you get more value for money if you just like subscribe to the whole thing, because there's a lot of content on there. They call it like the Netflix for SEOs.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the Netflix of SEO.
Yeah,
It's a smart tagline, and it's a pretty cool service what they've got. Because I mean, I browsed through their courses, and it's like I forget the cost, but it's beyond reasonable, like for what you get.
Yeah, it's not expensive, and like it's rare that I'm proud of the work I do. I'm quite like a self-critical person, but like I was so flattered when I got asked to do it. I was like, yeah, I'm going to make something sick here. So yeah, it's really good. I've seen quite a lot of like HARO trainings online, and like my one is the best one, I think.
Awesome.
Maybe I'm a bit biased, but yeah.
So wrapping things up, I just kind of want to summarize, like, like the best tips that you've got for HARO. So I guess it would be like the first point would be always be on time to reply back as soon as possible and not reply to a message that's late. I think you're also stating that it's quite obvious that you want to put in more effort. I mean, if you kind of do like a half-assed job, you're going to probably reduce your conversion rate. And then, when you've got those 2 types of questions, like the generalist versus the specialist, to answer the single question from the generalist, and for the specialist, answer every single question.
Yes, I think once you can identify which is a generalist question, which is a specialist question, like immediately, then that's when you can start doing them well. And just always remember the generalist question, they are doing one of these roundup posts. So write it as if it's a response in a roundup post. The specialist question, they have put time into crafting each question. So answer each question. Don't answer like your interpretation of the question, or don't think, oh, like you're asking the wrong question, I'm going to answer this more interesting question. Answer their question and you'll do well.
True. So how can people find you?
Cool. So my website is olliebaiseDigital.com. So if you just go on there, and then my email address is on the homepage, and you can just send me an email. I'm a bit of a Luddite when it comes to social media, but if you can find my Facebook account and just send me a DM, I will respond to you. I'm not actually taking on clients at the moment, but if you just want to ask me a question, like I like just chatting about this. So yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, the next best thing is go over to Internet Marketing Gold, subscribe, and get your HARO course.
Yeah, if I'm honest, if you ask me a question about HARO, I'm just going to say get the course because it's like it's easier to show you than to tell you.
Yeah.
As with everything.
Awesome. Greatly appreciate it. I mean, I'm getting more into HARO, like, obviously working with you in the last year and getting started with it. And the more I start to research it, the more I'm like, you know what, I need to spend more time on HARO. So I know I'm not the only one, and I know the interest is growing over time, and it's exciting.
Yeah, it's once you get your head around it, it's quite easy to teach people to do it. Like there are very much, even though it's like, it seems like a sort of a creative thing at first, it is very process driven. You've just got to think about the answers in a certain way. So once you get your head around it, you can get someone else to do it quite easily. It's not, once you've got the technique down, it's easy to teach.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. Could you do us a big favor and leave a rating or a comment wherever you listen to this podcast? We'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.